Whoosh! Troy felt a strong gust of wind hit his face, causing his features to contort in pain as he could feel his bone becoming dislocated. His eyes were fixed on Dustin's fist, which stopped right in front of his chest. Although it was still a few inches away, the intimidating force still caused him to tremble in fear. Blood spurted from his mouth. With just the sheer force of his fist energy, Dustin had the power to dislocate the bones in Troy's body. The thought of what would have happened if his fists had actually landed on him was almost too terrifying to contemplate. He was lucky that he had kneeled in time. Otherwise, he would have been out cold. "Spare me! Please!" Troy was now on his knees, his face drained of color as he begged frantically. All the confidence he had earlier was gone, replaced by fear and desperation. Rather than shock, Troy was feeling terrified at the moment. That was because when their fists collided, his power shattered like glass in a split second, leaving him defenseless against the sheer force of his opponent. He could feel the excruciating pain in every single bone in his body. This situation would only happen when there was a significant disparity in skill level. That is why, when Dustin was about to make another move, Troy chose to beg for mercy. Begging for forgiveness on his knees was a small price to pay in exchange for his life. "Don't front of me again," Dustin said coldly. "Yes, right away." Troy appeared and immediately fled the room without an ounce of hesitation. He didn't even care about his dignity. Everyone was dumbfounded as they watched Troy flee the scene. The top-notch warrior, an elite disciple from Boulderthorn known as Lightning Fist, had actually fled from battle? Everyone's jaws dropped in disbelief. No one could have predicted this outcome. Originally, they believed that Troy's appearance would resolve the situation, but now the tables had turned completely. If they had not witnessed it firsthand, they wouldn't even be able to believe it. A legendary warrior who had never been deleted in battle fled the scene in terror. How is this possible? Oliver's eyes widened in disbelief. That was his incredible senior, Troy Chapman. As a disciple of Boulderthorn, Troy was a master at honing inner energy, with unmatched skills and extreme talents. Oliver couldn't wrap his head around how this had happened. He didn't even hesitate to kneel down and beg for mercy. What the hell is going on? Oliver wondered. There's no way. It's impossible. Tina couldn't stop shaking her head in shock. That was the top disciple from Boulderthorn. How could he be defeated by a nobody? In fact, she wasn't the only one thinking about it. Everyone in the room had the same idea. However, the truth was right in front of them, and no matter how much they wanted to deny it, it wouldn't change the outcome. Did you say that you would stand up for her too? Dustin's gaze landed on Oliver. Punk! You're lucky that my senior's injury recurred today, otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to escape so easily. Next time, you wouldn't be so lucky. After finishing his sentence, Oliver fled the scene. Troy was no match for Dustin, then wasn't he just an easy target? Mr. Williams! Mr. Williams! Tina yelled at the top of her lungs. Yet, Oliver picked up the pace and ran even faster, disappearing without a trace. At that moment, she was frozen on the spot. As I've said, I'll pay you back tenfold for the damage you did. A cold voice rang beside her ears. Tina turned around and realized that Dustin was already standing behind her. I'm warning you. Don't mess with me. I'm Edwin Hummer's daughter. If you dare to lay a finger on me, you and your entire family, even your relatives, will suffer the consequences of crossing the Hummers. Tina shouted desperately. Sure, I'll play this game with the Hummers. But before that, I will need to get my revenge first. Dustin's hand shot out and grasped Tina. A horrific, ear-piercing scream echoed through the entire hotel. The screams continued every few seconds. When Julie arrived at the hotel all drenched, she saw Tina being tortured. She was completely frozen as she stared in shock. Earlier, when Dustin left the hospital, she felt that something was off. So, she immediately followed him. She never thought that he could be so brave to go against MS Hummer in front of such a crowd. At that moment, Tina was not just unrecognizable, all four of her limbs were detached from her body. The gory scene filled with blood was extremely unsettling. Stop! Stop this instant! Dustin! Are you out of your mind? Hurry up and let go of Ms. Hummer. Julie came running as she yelled. Dustin ignored Julie completely. He just looked down at Tina, who was lying on the ground, with a final flicker of life. I won't kill you tonight, but that doesn't mean I forgive you. In 3 days, kneel down and apologize to Dahlia. Otherwise, you will suffer the consequences. After finishing his words, he raised 2 fingers and thrust them into Tina's pressure points all over her body. It was a technique he had developed himself, and it was deadly. The victim would slowly die in 3 days. Moreover, he was the only one who could break the curse. Crazy bastard. You're a maniac. Now that you've hurt Ms. Hummer, you're not the only one who will suffer. We're all doomed because of you. Julie saw Dustin, who was about to leave, and yelled at him once again. Yet, Dustin did not even spare her a glance and kept walking towards the exit. The crowd made way for his exit, not daring to stop him. Hurry! Secure the premise. Suddenly, a shout was heard from outside. A horde of towering fighters stormed into the room. Instantly, the men surrounded the entire room. Who dared to cause trouble at my place? A man with dark sunglasses and a smoldering cigar strolled into the room, emanating a menacing and dangerous aura. This is great. Sir Zims is finally here. We can finally have the scene under control. Sir Zims is the trusty right-hand man of the Hummer family. He definitely wouldn't let him off for beating Ms. Hummer into a pulp. Although he's quite skilled, he only has 2 fists. He wouldn't be able to take on hundreds of men no matter how skilled he is. The crowd went wild once again as help arrived at the scene. Asterisk Sir Zims. You're just in time. Dustin not only caused trouble, but he also beat up Ms. Hummer. Julie quickly reported the incident to him. What? He dared to hit Ms. Hummer? Which bastard did this? If you have the guts, come forward. Let's see if I can tear you apart myself. Mason's gaze narrowed, his blood boiling with anger. It was me. Dustin approached him slowly. Before Mason could strike, his expression changed completely when he saw him. Mr. Rhys? It's you? Dustin simply uttered a single word, scram. Yes, sir. Mason nodded and stepped aside. Once again, the entire room was dead silent.